Welcome to the deal analysis section of myapp.property. Let's jump in. Area research is really important in property investing because you need to find which areas have the right yield for the risk profile that satisfies your requirements. So for example, you might be someone who is very prone to risk and not scared of risk. You might want to go for an area like Joburg CBD where the risk profile is quite high, but the yield, the potential return on investment is equally high. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can do an effective area research and see multiple different areas in one view. Firstly, I'm going to click here, add a new research area. So I'm going to choose Heilbrow, which is in Joburg CBD. I'm going to look at 2 beds, 1 bath. We obviously want to compare apples with apples. Your average rental in Joburg CBD will probably be around 5.5. Your average purchase price will be about 280,000. If you're not aware of what these numbers are, you need to do your research. You need to go onto Property 24, contact agents, download TPN reports so that you are comfortable with these numbers. Next, we have to look at the risk profile. Now, the risk profile, I like to look at 4 main areas to conduct my risk analysis. I look at the employment statistics, the education levels, the affordability, and the good standing. All of this can be gathered from a TPN report. So just go to shop.tpn.coza, pull a report, an investor report, and you'll get this information. Now, the employment stats, being 1 being bad, 5 being good. In Joburg CBD, it's pretty good because that's why people want to live in Joburg Central, because there's economic activity. The education levels are not that great. Affordability is okay, and good standing is okay. So what you'll see on the right-hand side here is the yield assessment. First of all, this area has a risk rating of C. A is low risk, E is high risk, so C is kind of that middle ground. The area risk based on it being a C means that we're going to deduct 8% from the yield. That's the provision of our risk factor. So the gross yield of this area is 23.57%. That is this amount times 12 divided by this amount. It tells you whether an area might be cash flow positive or not. You want it to be obviously 5% greater than your prime lending rate. But when we take into account the area risk of C and 8%, your effective yield is actually 21.69%. So gross yield is telling you what the area is doing, but once you then bring in your risk profile, that's what your effective yield is for. Let's do another example. This time I'm going to do more of an affluent area called Fourways, also in Johannesburg. I'm going to look at 2 beds, 1 baths. Your average rental for property there is probably going to be 9,500, and your average purchase price will be probably around 1.2 million. Now, from a risk profile perspective, the employment levels are good. The education levels are good. Affordability is great. Good standing is great. So as you can see here, based on the inputs I've put in here, the risk rating is A. Fourways is a low risk area. Most affluent suburbs are low risk. You're not going to have that much delinquent behavior. So we're only going to take a 2% provision aside for risk. Now the gross yield is 9.5. Remember, it's the average rental times 12 divided by the average purchase price. 9.5 is not a very good stat. Because if you're lending, let's say your lending rate is 10%, your rent is not even going to cover your debt repayments. So if you want to be funding the shortfall and financing your tenant's lifestyle, Fourways is probably a good area. So once we look at the gross yield and we account for this 2% risk, the effective yield is 9.31. So what's nice about this dashboard is you can now compare multiple different areas to each other, and you can see what the average rent, purchase price, gross yield, effective yield, and risk rating is. So based on my quick research here, I'm probably going to spend much more time in Heilbrow looking for good deals and making sure that I do my due diligence and that I vet the risk than spending any time in Fourways, because the yield is just not attractive. I hope this tutorial answered your questions. If not, please contact us via the chat and email functionality in the menu bar. If you're looking for more support, maybe some one-on-one coaching, upgrade your membership to the Platinum package and you'll have some one-on-one time with me.